Time being 7 o'clock, I'll call Monday, March 28th, 2022 meeting of the Oxford Planning Board to order. First on the agenda, plans not requiring subdivision approval. We have none. I'll go down to the minutes. Entertain a motion to approve the minutes of March 14th, 2022. So moved by Mark?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Christine. Anyone have any issues with them? That's all right. There being none, we'll call for the roll call vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, carried unanimously, 7 members. Okay, the time being 7:03, we were supposed to have a public hearing on 34 Mount Pleasant Street. We've had an issue with the legal advertisements through the Worcester Telegram and Gazette. Mary didn't find out they were rejected until late last week. They never got into the newspaper, so it's basically illegal for us to hold a public hearing without those. So we're gonna, you want to treat that one as a new one, Mary, too? Gonna treat it as a new submission tonight and just reschedule?
We might as well.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to accept a new submission of 34 Mount Pleasant Street and schedule a public hearing for April
April
25th at
we can do 7:05.
7:05. That's good.
All right, I'll make that a motion.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Matthew. Further discussion?
So everything was submitted for this application? All of it?
We've got to go through it again.
Yeah.
It's been submitted, issued. We were supposed to have the meeting tonight, but we didn't get its legal notices of it.
Yeah, so we can get it.
Okay, but everything was submitted?
Yes, everything's in good order.
I'm good.
Okay. Okay, roll call.
I vote aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, carried unanimously, 7 voting members. Okay. Yeah, good. Let's wait the 2 minutes. We're gonna be waiting anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the time being 7:05, we're supposed to have a public hearing on 75 Depot Road for the industrial distribution facility. That one also did not get advertised in the newspaper. And we didn't discover it till late last week, so we are proposing to have a new submission and to schedule a public hearing for April 25th at 7:10 PM.
Yes, and if I may,
oh, yeah.
Mr. Chairman, sorry. And as you stated earlier, it was due to an error of the local newspaper.
Yes.
So we submitted everything in good order, but unfortunately, the paper made an error twice.
Okay.
Okay. And are we still
Yeah.
planning on doing that at the senior center? Are we still planning on holding that meeting there, or?
I'd prefer it to stay here.
I prefer to stay here myself, too.
The plan would be to have it here.
Even if we have to open up the back room for an overflow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The
Just as
Worst,
soon as we were set up to televise and
Yeah.
everything else. We're all
worst
nice and
case,
comfy.
worst case scenario, if we exceed room capacity, then I will book the senior center in advance, just so we have it in place, just in case if we do need it. But
Okay.
the night's still young.
All right. Yeah, I'd rather have it here, too. I don't
Okay.
wanna-
So you
Yeah.
do that motion?
Yeah, I'll make that a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Christine. Further discussion? Roll call vote?
I vote aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Carried unanimously, 7-0. All right. takes care of that. Now we can get down to old business. 56 Howard Street, acceptance of the stormwater management as-built plan and recommendation for occupancy. Well, we did receive a memo today from Jared Duvall, DPW. And I'll read it. Dated March 28th, 2022, to the Planning Board from Jared Duvall, DPW Director, 56 Howard Street, land disturbance / stormwater management permit and the as-built plan acceptance. The following materials form the basis of the DPW's review of the land disturbance / stormwater management permit applications at the subject address. 1. Approved sewage disposal system plan prepared by Summit Engineering and Survey on behalf of TJ Enterprises dated April 1st, 2021. 2. Stormwater disposal system as-built plan prepared by Summit Engineering and Survey on behalf of DJ Enterprises dated April 1, 2021, with as-built information added on November 15th, 2021. Based on a review of the above documents and a site inspection performed today, I am pleased to offer the following comments. 1. The proposed grass swale along the western property line was not constructed. 2. While shown on the as-built plan based on the inspection of the site, I did not witness the outlet of the proposed footing drain nor the stone infiltration trench. 3. The entire site currently does not have a strand of grass, and there is evidence of erosion and sediment transport at the western portion of the site. 4. The driveway appears to be constructed wider than what was proposed on the approved plan. The as-built plan should reflect the actual layout of the constructed driveway. 5. The DPW was not contacted for inspection of the Caltech roof recharge chambers prior to backfilling. Therefore, we cannot verify the installation of said chambers. The downspouts do exceed below grade. The permittee should provide photographic evidence of the chamber installation if available. Based on review of the plans and inspection of the site, I cannot recommend that the board accept the as-built plan in its current form. The permittee shall construct the stormwater BMPs in accordance with the approved plan or provide an analysis or a letter from a licensed engineer certifying the site, as constructed, meets the performance standards of the current bylaw rules and regulations.
So, he had a licensed engineer create an as-built plan that doesn't reflect the reality on the ground.
No, he did. The developer had the engineer create the plan.
Understood, but somebody with a license
Yep.
said, there's this, there's that. Jared goes out, there isn't this or that. What's
not
the
good.
penalty for that?
We don't accept the as-built plan.
The system is installed, it was installed by a licensed contractor. They took pictures of it. When I got this email at 5 o'clock tonight, I reached out to my installer. He reached out to Jared Long. He sent him the pictures of the system, he had pictures of it. And he was fine with that, and I know it's too late
Right.
to come in here right now, but from what I understand, it's gonna be fine. Basically, and as far as the site goes with the loom, we really couldn't do anything with that because of coming through winter. My next step is right now is to, within the next few weeks, is to get that loom done, get it hydro seeded, get that stable. And basically, I was just looking to try to get temporary oxygen permit for the homeowners to move in. And then when we take care of the lawn, why some engineer didn't submit the as-built for that, because they did inspect it, the as-built was done. Why didn't they have the plans, and I don't know, but I'll check on that tomorrow myself.
Well, I mean, it's in,
There's more than one thing.
What's in a name? Okay? It's supposed to be a drawing prepared by a civil engineer as built. And we're getting a report back from the field that the plan reflects improvements that aren't there. I don't have a problem with you, the owner, the builder. I have a problem with the engineer going out there and saying, these things are here, and we send Jared out there, and they're not. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
No.
We,
Because they are there.
based on a civil engineer's stamp, okay? I should be able to rely that if something is if the engineer indicates something's on the plan, I don't need to go out there. He's a licensed professional, his stamp is on the plan, it's out there. And we're getting a report from the field that says it isn't out there. I have a problem with that.
Well, he's stated 5 things that the plan does not reflect what the proposed construction plans did. Okay?
Is he saying that the as-built plan, does the as-built plan say that that stuff is there and Jared's not seen it, or is he talking about
That's the implication from this letter.
the as-built plan, not the proposed plan?
Right.
Correct.
Yep.
So the swale that he talks about, was that ever put in?
The swale will be put in.
Okay.
You just couldn't do it, right?
And
With
does-
this- right.
That final grade in
Oh.
Rocktown.
Well, what he's saying is that does the as-built plan show the swale,
Yes.
the
Yeah, the-
as-built swale? On the western boundary that he talks about?
That would be the implication reading this letter, that on the as-built it's shown, but it's not actually at the location.
I don't see it.
Yeah. So he's probably combining the as-built and the design, saying that stuff's not there. I don't know if he's,
While shown on the as-built plan, based on an inspection of the site, I did not witness the outlet of the proposed footing drain or the stone infiltration trench. Those things are shown as being on the ground, on the plan, as built, and they're not there.
Dan, is that stuff there?
It's there. We've installed everything.
Right.
So the outlet for the footing drain is there, and that, what he described is there. How, is there a reason, is there something parked on it? Is there,
No,
there's something blocking it where Jared wouldn't be able to see it?
I wish I knew he was there today. I was next door in the house, working in the next house. I was there all day today. I never saw him come over. I wish I knew he showed up.
Yeah, that would have been nice.
Well,
I've got a few pictures here. I mean, if you want to see
Right.
what they did, putting the recharge system in.
Right.
I mean, it is there.
Well,
Right,
like
that's
it was said, you
that's
got
the
this at 5 o'clock today.
Oh.
Yeah.
You've had no time to respond to it. Maybe by the next time this is in front of the board, you and Jared can get some of this stuff cleared up.
Yeah.
But I have a big problem with a licensed civil engineer putting his stamp. If this stuff isn't out there in the field, I don't know, we gotta make a referral to town council or somebody, because this isn't the first time we've had civil engineers give us plans that were fictional.
Yeah, I mean, I've put these systems in on
Yeah.
every single
Right.
one.
Right.
Everyone's had them.
Okay.
This house is my mother-in-law's. I'm not sure if the corners on her, because they have my.
Rich,
Well, I
Tony,
hear,
can I see the
I
as-built
really
plan?
hear you on that.
Yeah, and I understand that you can't plant the grass
that
in the middle of the winter or middle of the night. You can't do stuff like that. I get that, and I get that, but,
Even today, the
and-
ground was frozen.
I didn't
over
realize
there.
you didn't have it.
You know, we just can't get in there and do the work right now, but
So,
hopefully in the next couple
so
of
the
weeks.
grass,
right.
huh?
And I said, you got an issue with Summit Engineer, as Mark is saying, by
think it
doing
was
something
in
like
your
that. It's just
packet.
wrong. I mean, it's not your fault, it's just,
So
you know.
these
I
are
know
the
they
things.
inspected it.
Right,
I-
and they just
I
never-
called them to do the
Right,
estimate, so
right.
I know they inspected it, I know
Yeah.
they were there.
yeah.
I thought once they did that and did the as-built, that they would have sent it in to the building department.
Right, yeah, exactly.
They
Yeah.
must not have, and I'll get on that tomorrow.
Right, yeah. There's not, there's not, like I said, you get this at 5 o'clock, there's nothing you can do.
No.
And from a board standpoint, we can't do anything either.
Yeah, I mean, our hands are tied here. We've got a town official saying there's 5 things wrong with
Right.
this plan.
Well, can I just say that, looking at the plan, the swale does not show up as as-built. That invert does not show up as as-built.
Proposed.
So everything that's as-built is in like a different color.
Okay,
So that he shows there is design.
Proposed.
So, I'm not defending him.
No.
Well, it sounds like I am, but
No.
he's not showing it as built.
okay.
So it probably is there, like Dan says, but,
Proposed, right. You can't put the grass in because you can't plant grass. You can't put a swale in because.
right. But he's not saying something that's,
Okay,
Yeah, but
So I don't wanna-
but no, the whole thing, it should have, when they did inspect it, they should have
it should have been a phone call,
been a phone call.
meet with you, walk the site together.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think we got to carry this as old business onto our next agenda. And I would like to see another memo from Jared Duvall correcting those 5 things, whatever it takes. As far as erosion and the lack of grass, I mean, that's common this time of year. But as soon as you can get that thing grassed, the better. But get the as-built and the plan to meet. That's what the as-built is supposed to do, verify that everything on the plan was done, and right now there's problems. Okay? That's all. We'll put it on our next agenda. We'll see you on the 11th.
The 11th.
Thanks, Dan. Take care.
Ma'am, what are you here for?
The 7:05, is it canceled? I
Yes.
can't figure it out.
Yeah.
Postponed.
Yeah, you'll be getting re-notified,
Okay, thank you.
okay? Okay, anyone have matters to address at a future meeting? I do. I'd like to review the town's rules and subdivision rules and regulations. Comments on the width of sidewalks, because, they're talking about 5-foot sidewalks.
What do we require now in our regulations? 4 feet?
I think 4.
Why is Jared asking for 5 feet then?
He wants his automatic equipment to be able to do sidewalks, and hopefully they don't.
You can't ask for 5 feet if the regulations say 4 feet.
That's true. And I don't know why he is either, but he has. There's a memo in front of you tonight on
Yeah, I saw that.
History Estates.
well, without specifically addressing that, isn't that something we could be negotiating for all the waivers we're giving? Couldn't we say we want 5-foot sidewalks, you want your waivers?
There's a lot of things on, what we'll talk about on 805.
Okay.
I'm not trying to push us to talk about anything on that. I'm pushing staff to start looking at the rules and regulations. There's been other things we've been talking about too. The pipe, the drainage pipe, everything else. Let's start a
A working
a
draft.
red line.
Topographical specs 1929 versus
So,
1980.
is there any way when some of these new developments coming in that put a heavy burden on the Oxford's roads and ask for a special permit, is there any way that we can ask for them to do road improvements because they're using the roads?
Absolutely.
Is that illegal?
Y-
That the fine, is that,
Yes.
Joe, I'm looking at some
As
of
long
these
as
bigger
you can
companies,
find the nexus to the,
you know,
the project.
a reason why, yes, again, because now that, just a way of trying to get more money for road, and specifically for road improvements. Not, that money needs to be funded towards improving the roads in Oxford, I guess, that they're using. When, I'm thinking like when Lane Gravel came in, I'm sure they're not putting any funding towards the roads being done, so. But
It's
And-
definitely worthy to be considered when applications come before
Right,
the board,
right.
especially through special
Right.
permit.
And that type of thing
Yeah.
should be addressed by the Board of Selectmen
Yeah.
when they're seeking to re-up their permits. I agree.
But if
Big-
it's a discussion,
Big truck
yeah.
traffic is
Right.
killing all our roads. It
Yeah,
isn't just that
right,
road, it's all the
right.
roads.
Right. So, I don't know if that's like an automatic, okay, well, you're putting 100 trucks on a day going, you know, whatever that factor is on the wear and tear of the roads should be.
Yeah, it just
gotta
has
be
to
a
be
form-
concrete. I mean, you have
Yeah.
to find the nexus,
There has to
right?
be a
And
formula, there has to be a
and if
formula
it's-
for, yeah.
It's hard to do that on Main Street, you know, where there's so many users, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but again,
That's probably where sometimes
we
you
need,
want to do.
yes, yeah, well, I'm saying this is specifically for the repair and maintenance of roads, not,
But I
for-
think we, you know, as,
not for-
as applications come
sure,
before, we
yeah.
can keep that in mind and come up with some creative conditions tied to the project, right?
They gotta, it's gotta be tied to egress from the site they wanna develop, basically, you know? It's kinda usually localized, even if it's localized drainage issues. I mean, we've had developers install drainage outside their subdivision at the road level.
Right. You know, thinking about roadway, it's also, if there's signalization there,
yeah.
to ensure that as new users come on board, let's say at a shopping center or so on, that,
Right.
one, we have access to the signalization, two, that it's adjusted accordingly,
Right.
things like that.
Yeah. I just remember, you know, when somebody asks for a special permit, we can ask for more. That goes outside the
Absolutely.
parameters. And that's,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, Tony, you're up. You got
Okay.
40 minutes.
good luck.
For this report, just like to provide, just to go over some scheduling items and some updates on that. So we are scheduled for the next meeting, April 11th, for our public hearings for the zoning amendments, for the four of them. And we did provide, Mary prepared the public hearing notices, and they were submitted to the Worcester paper and confirmed by the Worcester paper this time. After we
My
sent
name
it.
was splattered all over it this past weekend. Haven't seen it in a while.
So, so everything's in good order thus far. The run dates are March 27th and April 3rd for all four. And the way we have them in order, as you can see at 7:05, is the article relative to district boundary division. And then at 7:10 is the article relative to the marijuana overlay district, which is identical to the submission last year. And as you may recall, it was voted, it received more yes than no votes at town meeting, but did not meet the two-thirds threshold. I do want to be clear about that. There was, I believe, approximately 76 votes that were in favor, and 45 perhaps that were against. While the majority of folks at town meeting supported it, again, it did not reach that threshold. However, an important distinction, as I mentioned last time, is this item is being reintroduced, and it can be reintroduced because this board gave a favorable recommendation last time. If it was otherwise, then it would be considered a repetitive petition, and it would have to hold for 2 years.
2 years, yeah.
So that is out there. The next item is at 7:15, which is large-scale battery energy storage systems. And I will have a presentation for that, and we've been doing some work and reaching out to some folks, both in industry and in a few other communities that are looking at this as well. So look forward to providing with that presentation, share with you what we've learned.
Okay.
And also taking into consideration all the comments, feedback that you folks have provided us. So hopefully we'll be able to answer those. And again, that is by special permit in the industrial areas. The last one for the April 11th meeting is the proposed amendment to the zoning map by adding the general business zoning district by a distance of 75 feet. 75 feet is an important distinction. So we actually took measurement in working with DPW and DOT to get a better understanding of where their center line will be on the new Route 20. And once again, at 50 feet, which on an aerial looks good, but when you incorporate the slight deviations on the Route 20 project, we felt more comfortable putting it at 75.
Okay.
So
Makes sense.
just to be aware.
Makes sense.
There are some slivers, as I like to say, of takings through DOT to allow for temporary and permanent, to allow for construction of Route 20. That's standard. But again, even with that, it doesn't impact this amendment.
Okay.
I should also share with the board, so we are required, obviously, on all zoning amendments to have it advertised, as you see here in the public hearing notice, to notify the other communities abutting us, to notify DHCD and the Regional Planning Authority, and also any property owners who have recorded their names with the town clerk to receive such notices. That is standard through state law. We did, in this instance, and also for the marijuana, we did also send out a copy of the public hearing notice to each of the property owners that we had identified through the assessor's office. I believe there's approximately 10 in this zoning district, and have received, so we received 2 calls today, so that we know that folks have received the notice, and general inquiries about what exactly this would mean. And as shared last time, this would allow general business uses, again, important caveat here, through special permit, whereas we know the board has discretion. This would still protect the property owners that have their residential uses. They remain, they stay. Certainly, any changes no different now, as should this amendment passes, must comply with zoning, period, regardless. So that was noted, and feedback so far, no issues raised by the 2 folks I spoke with today, and previously also had a conversation with another property owner who was open to this idea. So that I'd share that. With the MOD, we also sent a courtesy notice, if you will, to the property owners in the new area of extension, and haven't received any comment back, but just wanted to share that with the board. We do have copies for public viewing of the zoning map amendments, both MOD and GB, here in the building, and this week we'll be putting it online as well on the planning board page. I'm also reminded too, would like to share to the board and of course to the public, that those that wish to receive notices when things get updated on our webpage can sign up right on the main page of the Town of Oxford's website to receive notices of agendas, when agendas get posted on there, when minutes get posted on there. And not just for Planning Board, for Conservation Commission, for other boards as well. It is available, and it's not necessarily a new feature, but I do want to share it with everyone.
Okay.
So people know that it is out there, and you can opt in just as easy as you can opt out, and take advantage of it, because it does prove to be a resource.
So Tony, I have a question. When is our town meeting? May
4th.
May 4th. Okay.
Wednesday night.
So we'll talk about these and then get them on the,
Yeah, so I'll have a presentation on all of these for the April 11th meeting here. And then we'll do a presentation, of course, at town meeting as well.
I'll just reiterate, there's a lot of new members since we did the marijuana overlay district, and at that time, we were only thinking about retail, medical
Right.
uses. And limited it to 2 facilities. Okay? Since then, anything that touches marijuana via labs, via growing facilities, being everything else is still considered marijuana businesses. And that's why it behooves us to make areas where this stuff can actually take place. We just happen to be fortunate that the 2 facilities that got in there just squeaked in by a portion of their sites. And this will just,
And the
it
reason.
seems to be a
yeah.
growing
Yeah.
business.
Right, and the reason being for the one that's on Route 12 here was because anyone that had a medical
Right, got
business
in.
up and running got in first, no matter what.
So just kind of, can be forgetful. So we got the one on Route 12. Where's the other one?
It could be anywhere.
So
on
that's
Route
the other
12.
one that's out,
The-
kind of,
the
that
other
should be
zoning- yeah,
publicized, right?
Right.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
for interest.
Yes, thank you. We have out there right now a request for interest in RFI that's available also on our website, on the town's website. Anyone that wants to obtain a copy of the RFI. The town is seeking applications for interested individuals, entities looking to petition the town for the second license. We only have 2 licenses for retail. Curaleaf has one, and you may recall, I believe it was True Roots was the other company who actually received an HCA host community agreement. I believe went through the board as well, before my time, but they never finalized, if you will, their pieces. So, out of courtesy to them, we held on to, and we gave them ample time and followed up with them sometime end of last year to check on, see how they were doing and so on. And they informed the town manager's office that they would not be pursuing and therefore would give up their HCA. So.
That was off of Route 20, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and so, and at that, what that did was opened up a conversation for us with respect to what do we do next? And we thought that this RFI, which other communities have done too, might be interesting. And it's been a little while since I've looked at it, but one of the beauties of the bids page online is you are required to sign up to receive the RFI or any bid. And what that does, that helps us keep people informed when there are addendums to RFIs or RFPs, so everyone gets notified, it's uniform and so on. But last time Jared and I pulled the information, there was about some 20 or so inquiries. Not to be confused that does not directly correlate to correlates to interest perhaps, but not to actual applications. It's not uncommon to get people requesting the applications for maybe comparison. Sometimes it's another town planner, for example, a business, a marketing agency, but also true interested parties. And the old-fashioned way it would be no different. If someone were to go to here, to DPW, to request for a copy, we would take their name and email down again, so when there are addendums to the RFI, that they are notified properly. So that's where we were left off. It's about a month ago since we pulled it. We'll pull it again. The applications are due early May. With that, that's just for retail. Like I said, once that license is occupied, hopefully, then there's nothing else with respect to retail. None of this, whether it's the actual MOD that we talked about, none of this prevents anyone from submitting applications for cultivation or other marijuana-related businesses in the MOD, of course. Should the extension be approved, then again, nothing would prevent someone from submitting an application for cultivation or otherwise. We will be extending the deadline for the RFI, perhaps by another week, and in that, that should give folks time. So it's unbeknownst to us what's going to happen at town meeting, but should it be approved, that's one thing. Should not be approved, that's another thing. But we felt it'd be prudent to at least to extend the RFI until after town meeting, another week or so. So we'll see. And the threshold for submitting an application, it's only an RFI. And what I mean by that is we're not expecting folks to own the property, fully secure the property, have P&S and so on. There's a lot of risk. Every application, there's an element of risk, right? When people even come before this board or any permitting authority. So we definitely take that in consideration, but we hope we get a good pool of applications. And by process, it's, once we receive the applications, a group of us in town will review, make recommendation to the Board of Selectmen, which at that time could be one, could be a couple, could be a whole bunch of, we don't know, right? We have not received any applications yet, to be clear, but we may also opt not to recommend, and we do have that flexibility in the applications.
So when
in
you
the
say
application
that,
guidelines.
then you don't recommend any of the, then that permit will still stay open, or?
It will still stay open, and then the deadline of the RFI will cease, and then we will remain to receive applications as we did prior to on a rolling basis. So that's important to folks to know. We did do a very targeted outreach as well. So again, it is of course on our website, but we also directly reached out to as many retail establishments through listings here in Massachusetts and throughout the region, some 200 plus entities. So hopefully that will help spur interest.
I think this stage of the game on retail, it's becoming kind of saturated because I see Cultivate, that was one of the first opened facilities for marijuana sales, whatever. They're now Sunnyside, and it's a California company. So
Yeah. So
they're becoming national companies now, taking over.
it'll be very interesting to see what happens just in observation when looking at the listings. So we looked at, again, from the state of Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and eastern New York State. It was interesting to see where other states are, and in relation to cannabis, and particularly noted in the state of Maine, the clusters of these retail and
I was just gonna
cultivation and so
say,
on.
is there a number in Worcester County, how many retail stores there are now? I mean, is it 20, is it?
I can get that
Yeah,
to you.
I'd be
I just
interested
don't know
to
off
see
the
how
top.
many, I mean,
Yeah.
I'd be interested to see how many there are.
I don't know off the top of my head, but I can get that to you. But I do feel the outreach was good, and we'll see. We'll know, and depending on what we get for proposals. So again, by process, the staff will make recommendation to the Board of Selectmen, and Board of Selectmen will make a determination again if they wish to pursue, to direct the town manager to enter into negotiation with one or several of the entities. And then that goes through, as we know, that goes through a process. And by process, could take, depends how quickly parties convene and exchange documents for draft review and so on.
They still go before the Cannabis Commission too, right?
Correct,
And that
correct.
I remember the guy coming in for the wholesale part of it was, sometimes it's a year and a half waiting list just to
Correct.
get that permit done for that.
Correct,
So, and-
correct. And there must be a community meeting as
Right.
well. I don't know if the protocol is still on Zoom,
Yeah.
but I recall, Mr. Chairman, I think you attended both, right, of the recent community
Yeah.
meetings. And that's, required of the Cannabis Control Commission. And from the town end, once when they have their their HAC, an executed HAC, executed is important, then they are allowed to submit their application before this board. So that's that. Lastly, I would like to inform the board that we do have upcoming a tech review meeting for Casella. And I have not received anything yet, but when I do, I'm happy to distribute. They intend to make improvements to their site, as I understand. So that's good. And
So where is their site?
It's off Route 56, right at the railroad tracks, right near the Leicester line.
After the
Oh,
bridge.
okay.
After the bridge.
It's where the bulk where they do bulk pickup twice a year.
which is a great segue.
It is.
I don't have the flyer in
Coming
front
up,
of me.
yeah, it's coming. I just
But that's coming up too,
Well,
I'm
yes, it's
sure.
coming
My-
up,
my-
and
my-
people should take advantage of it.
My daughter sent me that from North Carolina. She sent me the bulk pickup dates for that. 'Cause I when she's-
So, and secondly, too, it 'tis the season. Folks didn't miss anything with respect to the annual workshops at Holy Cross with the Citizens Planners Training Collaborative. They will be doing workshops virtually this spring, remainder of the spring. And
It's amazing how many people are still doing Zoom meetings.
Yes. Yes.
I see it in this thing all the time.
So,
Adjacent towns still doing Zoom meetings.
So we'll send them as we get them. We'll send them over to you if you're interested in any of the workshops. We attend them too. I always find them helpful, even if it's just waiting until the Q&A, because it's sometimes where I even learn the most. The fee for that, do not hesitate if there's when we send something out, if you wish to participate, do not hesitate. Let us know. And we'll cover we have a budget for that. We'll cover the cost of attendance, virtual or otherwise.
So if it's in Las Vegas and. you
No,
know,
no,
we could
it's,
just attend.
it's-
I'm
No,
just
no,
joking.
it's-
I'm just-
You
It's here.
could be anywhere in the world if it's virtually.
Yeah.
But the in-person, though, I believe it's still, I think it's still on hold. We're still doing virtual meetings. Just like CMRPC and their quarterly meetings are all virtual. We'll see. There's discussion about, there was discussion in December about meeting back in person in March, but we're still meeting virtually, so we'll get there. With that, Mr. Chairman, that's all that I have for an
Disappointed,
update.
Tony.
Jeez, Tony.
So,
Disappointed. Got
so
another
Tony, I
15.
have a question.
Yes.
So on the next agenda or the following, wasn't there two, like, housing developments supposed to be? Like one by Walmart off of Route 12?
the low income.
And then,
Yeah.
then there was another one like
Yeah, the
across from the high
40Bs,
school,
The Chapter
right?
40B housing.
Yes. So as it relates to scheduling, at this time, nothing's changed. And what do I mean by that? 722 Main Street, that project, the zoning
Is that
board.
the one by Walmart? Or is
Yes.
that the one? Okay.
Yes, thank you. The one by Walmart. That one is, the zoning board of appeals invoked what's called safe harbor, which is a provision under 40B that a board may, there's several items that if they feel that they meet the threshold of one of the items, which could be having 10% of your housing stock affordable, as shown on the SHI. The SHI is the subsidized housing inventory list that gets certified every year through DHCD. We are not at 10%, we're at 7.3 and change. Another one, more common one, which is what the ZBA invoked, was what's called the GLAM calculation, and it's basically taking the land area of the town, deducting what parcels by acreage are the affordable parcels. So, for example, Orchard Hill, all the acreage there. The Housing Authority, all of the acreage there. And then you computate that against all of the acreage in town. There are deductions for municipal land, deduction for, in our case, Army Corps land. deduction for state land, deduction for roads, 90, 395, right, so on. And tribal land as well. Long story is when we do the calculation, we came up with a number of, you have to be greater than 1.5%. And based upon our calculation, which is being disputed right now by the applicant of 722 Main Street, but based on our application, we feel as though we met the threshold. So when the ZBA invoked safe harbor, communication was sent as required under the rules, under the law, to DHCD, which is the State Housing Authority, Department of Housing and Community Development, that oversees 40B, that oversees safe harbor, and we said we feel as though we have safe harbor provision. Why is that important? It's important because when a town can invoke safe harbor, you have the ability to approve or deny a project or approve with conditions, and the applicant has no right to go to the state to override the town's decision. An approval with denial is one thing, but an approval with conditions, they can even challenge that. No matter how well-crafted the decision is, no matter how well-crafted the conditions are, and we're talking about reasonable sometimes conditions. I certainly feel, we would put very reasonable conditions, but not to opine on that. Approval with conditions or a denial, an applicant could appeal. So that's why having that safe harbor provision protects cities and towns. You can see where that's a very valuable tool for either side. So where we are now with that, that's under appeal process with the state, with DHCD. So all of that is on hold. The public hearing is basically suspended, which ZBA had some time in the fall. And whatever the outcome is, don't know. It's been months, right? And whatever the outcome is, we'll have to treat it as, see what it comes back, see what the decision is by the state, and then treat it as
Could come back with.
as
they
a
got
town
full
sees fit.
approval to do what they did, that they have on paper, right?
Correct. Perhaps. We'll see. On the other project, I believe it's 580 Main Street, the Ansari project, which is near the condos, Plymouth Village? Plymouth Village.
In between
Not
that and Old Worcester,
presidential.
in between that and Old Worcester Road.
Yes.
stuff.
Which, ironically, Mr. Ansari, it was as the board may recall, those were here at the time, was the same
Yeah.
developer, right? And so under that one, that too, well, they never filed with the ZBA. They did file with the Board of Selectmen under what's called friendly 40B, not my term. It's not in state statute, the term friendly versus unfriendly. But what makes it quote-unquote a friendly 40B is that an applicant would go before the Board of Selectmen, to solicit a letter of support for their application. To solicit a letter of support. The Board of Selectmen are under no obligation to make any decision. If they wish, they could support it, could not. But if it does receive support, then the applicant can go through the DHCD process, which is not all that different mechanically speaking. Whether it's friendly or unfriendly, the applications would still go to the Zoning Board of Appeals of any city or town, still go through the comprehensive permit. The only nuanced difference is that in the friendly 40B, there would be quote-unquote support perhaps of the Board of Selectmen. And again, the vehicle they would use is to go through DHCD. DHCD may also provide other, there's different entities like Mass Housing, for example, DHCD and others that would provide funding or other incentives for developers that may work for them. They choose select, however. But for a friendly 40B, for whatever reason, the applicant went through the DHCD route. Long story with that, at the end of the day, the Board of Selectmen at the end of the day, took a vote not to support the to support the project. And so the applicant has every right to come back to the town still through a comprehensive permit process. And I guess in this case would be called an unfriendly 40B, but
40B.
that is jargon that
Exactly.
that has just been coined in Massachusetts, friendly versus unfriendly. It really mechanically, it's the same process. A comprehensive permit, same privileges, same rights for process, same thorough review. There's only that nuanced difference, I believe. So,
Okay.
and with that, Mr. Chairman, I have nothing else.
Oh, okay. Well,
Well,
there's not enough time to take a recess. We're just gonna have to sit and wait. How about,
Eat another
let me
candy.
bring up for
Sure.
future discussion again. Nothing has happened on 608 Main Street.
I'd be happy to, if we wish to put on the agenda for the next meeting, or provide
Sure.
a communication,
Sure.
at least have a
I
communication.
want,
from
it
DPW.
doesn't meet our plans at all, what they filled in the,
Is that that
Basin.
drainage thing again?
Yep, yeah,
that
it's filled, yeah.
duplex.
Yeah.
What
it just
what is
means there's
going
no
on? Why
teeth
is
to
this
whatever we
dragging
try
on
to
so
do as a
long?
town. That's what it means to me. You know, as a board member, we're here for hours at meetings trying to help make sure we satisfy neighbors' concerns and the town's concerns, and yet somebody can do something like that, and it just continues to go on and on and
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, there's the case of actually filling in a stormwater drainage basin and paving it.
So we have this massive stormwater policy in Oxford
Yeah.
that basically has no teeth at all.
Well, it didn't anyway. I don't know if the new version has any more,
Right.
but
You know, again, we're not the enforcement board, you know. It should be the,
I know there was a certified letter that was supposed to reach back to the DPW, and
So under the new,
I'd just like to know where it stands.
under the
Yep.
new system, that issue would be with Jared, right? Wouldn't even come to us. Is that the way the new bylaw works?
Under the administrative process, the DPW director would handle it. But at the end of the day, there's enforcement language in the old and the new.
right.
Now it's, and I will get an update as to where we stand on the enforcement piece. And with that,
I mean, it's been a year. I mean.
Indeed. Indeed.
What about, so who's the new enforcement officer?
Zoning enforcement
Yeah.
officer? The building commissioner, Patrick Delbert?
Yeah, so is that something that he would address?
Jared.
No?
No.
This would be
Bylaw,
Jared.
I believe, old and new specifically,
Jared.
points to DPW as the enforcement.
What?
So what could DPW do?
I thought I did send a certified letter out to them already.
Yeah,
I thought
say-
that was-
Yeah,
that
and
was
there's
done.
been more than one. So in the last year, it's been documenting.
And at one point, the town would
point.
take over and
At some point,
charging the, whatever it costs to restore it, right?
some point there would be a conversation about
Yeah.
what legal rights we have.
The cost and restoring it.
Bylaw.
right.
I think we gotta pursue it, because all I heard at a meeting was that, Route 12 during a major storm, and that tends to flood over in spots, and that ain't gonna help anything over there. There's no storage of any of that stormwater anymore off that land.
Yeah, I believe it's filled with crushed stone.
I mean, yeah, cross my fingers, I haven't seen any problem, but, I just remember the neighbor was very concerned. That's all I know, and they've since sold and
Sold it out,
moved
yeah,
on, so
and
I
somebody
don't
else-
know.
Give some else's headache.
But I just
the
get
new
irked,
basin?
I just get irked that
Want their
they,
basement to be the new basin for stormwater?
Well, the water comes down off that hill, it's just horrendous anyway, so. They had issues in their basement already.
What's at the top of the hill, Solar?
yeah, right at Worcester Gear Works,
The
there,
top
which
of the
is
hill?
close
Yeah.
by, that always floods
Used to be
over
the
too,
old
so.
pig farm, there used to be a water tower, used to be an old water tank up there too.
That's not where the solar farm is. There.
Yeah, that gets there eventually, yeah, yeah. You just follow those high tension wires right up, yeah, that's part of it, yeah.
Mm.
Used to be a big old water tank right up on top of that hill too. I think
I think
stone
that's still
the stone
active.
structure is still there, yeah.
Oh, that isn't the steel one?
No,
That's
the
over
big
there?
old wood one, yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's an old wooden one?
Yeah,
Okay.
just go playing it when we were kids.
Would also say, after the April 11th meeting, the meeting on the April 25th, which we have the distribution center scheduled, we'll also request if we could set aside some time, as customary, to go through the articles, all of the articles. And with the board's permission, would like to invite the, either the town manager or the assistant town manager, like last time.
Yeah.
To go through all the articles. We know ours, but it's
Every
always
now and then
good to
something,
get-
goes in this, the planning board gets driven into it sometimes with other articles that.
Well, they had to do with the infrastructure of the town.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and that the water-based, sewer-based, whatever, we would have a say.
So Mary, I will not be here on the 25th of April
Okay.
meeting. So just let you know.
Lucky you.
Vacation.
Gonna miss the fun.
You guys can fill me in at the next meeting.
I'm sure it'll be widely covered online.
We may still be there.
Yeah, I'm coming back on Friday. I'll check.
And, Mr. Chairman, I don't
Yeah.
know if you want me to touch base on the Mullins rule a little bit. I don't know if you had the benefit of seeing the communication we received from council. Just a general.
Go ahead. Give me some wisdom, Tony.
I don't know. I hope it's
What
helpful.
am I doing wrong?
Nothing,
Does that have to do with open meeting
nothing
law
wrong.
again?
No, well, the Mullins rule, for board members that miss,
Oh, yeah. You talk, go ahead.
yeah, so we did get.
Yeah, we're gonna
affidavit.
start one, and Christine's not gonna be here for
Yeah.
Right.
two public hearings already.
Which reminded me of that, and also, item tonight too. I found this very helpful, when we did get information from council. So, under the Mullins rule, a planning board member that misses one meeting, as you folks know, may still be eligible to vote if they certify that they've
Watch
read the minutes, watched
watch
the
watch
meeting,
video, yeah.
and so on. What's been helpful is, as this has evolved, and it's a rule, right? So there's been case law on this. I'm not an attorney, as you know, but I learn as I go along. And with the case law, it's now been understood that for an understanding that substantial discussion, if there is substantial discussion, number one, at a meeting that a member has missed, if the discussion is then repeated, if you will, at the following meeting, then Mullins doesn't necessarily apply. And substantial is important. Simple continuances, so applicant comes before the board and seeks a continuance, that's not a substantial item that occurred, if you will. So the Mullins rule won't necessarily be applicable there. So, in essence, provided that, and I'll talk about this in the next item, if information is then repeated in one meeting to the second meeting, which is common, particularly if there's draft conditions and we're reviewing conditions and we're reading through the conditions, and we provide an overview again at the following meeting, then Mullins rule need not apply, as per our council review of the current case law and so on. So that's very helpful. What's still out there is the scenario which happens too, of where new members come on board after the public hearing, and that is still open-ended. So I would not opine to say yes, that a member would be eligible to vote in that instance. So I'd leave that one to hopefully future case law that would address that. But in the meantime, council has affirmed that what I just said before. So someone could still participate, and that's
It
important.
should be a concern to the proponents that come in here with their things and keep delaying it time and time again, because, you know, we're all human, we all miss meetings.
Absolutely.
We have a
Absolutely.
life outside of this planning board or whatever. And the more meetings we have to have, because things just drag on and drag on, you're gonna lose members that can vote.
Certainly. And in the same, for everyone involved, developers, abutters, even staff, to sort of keep track as time goes by.
No, I hear you. I hear you,
Granted,
Tony, it can become,
it's etched in stone in the meeting minutes, the attendance and so on, but easily things can, hasn't happened, but things can go astray, unfortunately.
So who would vote on something like that? So say if, I missed a meeting, who would make the determination if I can vote? Would it be the chairman, or would it be the board?
Mary usually asks you to do,
Sign an
basically,
affidavit.
Yeah.
sign an affidavit, that's what's up here.
And if you miss
Okay.
2, then you can't. That's what used to
Correct,
be, right? If you
correct.
miss 2, you can't.
Correct. So you can quote-unquote miss one.
Right.
Yeah, one isn't bad, but when things go for months on end,
Yeah, go on and on. Right, yeah, you can.
true.
yeah,
that's why these proponents have to have everything documented and, you know?
Yeah, and I always try to remind folks, whether during tech review or other conversations, applicants, prospective applicants, that it's really important to know if it's a special permit versus site plan review, standalone or combined, what the vote count is required for approval. Same information we share with the abutters or anyone, really. And even with subdivision, too. So it's important to know that.
Well, thanks, Tony, you did fill it up, thank you.
Gonna ask the questions, right?
Fourth time, I have nothing
There you go,
further.
that's okay.
Perfect.
For the fourth time, nothing further.
Well, we're close,
Well, no, I'm just
go
joking.
Close enough, yeah.
close enough. The time being 8:05, we have a continued public hearing, History Estates, property off History Drive, application for approval of a definitive subdivision plan. And we did get some new information from Jared Duvall. And I think it's kind of pertinent to where we're gonna go tonight. So it was sent to Tony. Tony gave you all a copy of it here, and I'm gonna read it into the record. Monday, March 28th, 2022. Okay, my comments are as followed on the History Estates. With respect to the drainage easement, I'd say yes to fencing around the basin. With regards to access, I do not see a graded access way down to the basin, but one should be provided. It appears that the finished slope down to the basin exceeds 30%. In my opinion, this is way too steep for future access with equipment if necessary. So the applicant should revise the plans to reduce the finished slope to satisfy the DPW prior to endorsement. 2, drainage castings shall be Oxford standing EJ models. I can provide the model numbers upon request. The plan should be revised to show drainage castings using Oxford standard EJ models prior to endorsement. Sidewalk width should be 5 foot minimum. Condition, the plan should be revised to show the sidewalk width to be 5 foot minimum. I take no exception to the use of NAVD 88, vertical datum versus NGVD 1929. Something we will correct in our standard subdivision rules and regulations. Okay. And he says, action, vote to grant all waivers. I support the use of the HDPE drainage pipe versus the RCP concrete pipe and would recommend that the board provide the waiver. 6, single cascade-style drainage grates are sufficient if the gutter spread under the 10-year storm does not exceed the shoulder plus 1/2 a lane width. Condition, The plan should be revised to show single cascade-style drainage grates. Additional modifications may be required by DPW should the gutter spread exceed roadway shoulder plus 1/2 lane width under a 10-year storm. I have concern regarding the findings of the test pits within the proposed infiltration basin. GEI Graves indicated in response number 46 of their peer review report dated March 9th, they have no issues with the offset to groundwater, but based on the soil test pit data and proposed grading, it appears a minimum 2-foot offset from the basin floor to be estimated seasonal high water level cannot be maintained. It is concerning because this will limit the BMP's ability to infiltrate runoff and perform as the design intends. The basin may function as more of a detention or retention pond, allowing stormwater and not drawing down within the typical 72 hours required. The applicant should consult the DPW, and additional details on the plan may be required to meet to the satisfaction of the DPW prior to endorsement. 8, the detail should be provided for the proposed handicap access ramps. Condition, the plans should be revised to show additional details for the proposed handicap access ramps as required by the DPW prior to endorsement. Any conditions, let me know, and this is signed by Jared. My only question is why it took 3 months to get to this point. He has never addressed these things in the past. I understand the plans have been revised several times, and I am disappointed that we don't have a revised plans for the stuff we talked about 2 weeks ago. Okay, we talked about showing the outline of the trees on the plan, showing other things. But here's another list of 8 things that have to be placed on the plans. And I don't support conditioning a non-workable plan. That's my comment.
Yeah, we don't have a plan in front of us that's showing any of this, so, you know,
We talked about things at the last meeting. I thought we would have had at least another revision
Yep.
addressing the things we did talk about.
Yeah.
I'm glad we finally got word from the DPW, but it's coming late, very late in the process.
At this time, Mr. Chairman, if I may, if you'll allow me,
Yep.
the comments provided from DPW were following up from the last meeting as it related to all the items he outlined here. The lines in red were added again, should the board wish to approve tonight, as I always say. If the board wished to approve tonight, then those would be possible conditions. However, certainly, if the preference is to have it on the plan, then that is the wish of the board, right? Prior to endorsement, after a plan is approved and after the appeal period, the applicant would then come back with the plan with any necessary revisions, with the drainage access agreement language, what surety that would come after the approval and prior to the endorsement. But certainly, if the intention of the board, wish of the board is to ensure that these are shown on the plan, then no objection. If I may have this time just to go over as well.
Sure.
Revisions to the draft conditions. And we went over these, this working draft at the last meeting. What I'd like to do in detail, each piece, just to go broadly over what was added, what was taken out, and if there's any further discussion with respect to them. For simplicity, you see the track changes are on the working draft, and what's in red, which I will go through, was added, and of course what was striked out is shown to be removed. Under general conditions of approval, 1B, we added the recording. The plan must be recorded at the Worcester Registry of Deeds, both definitive subdivision plan and the covenant in the form approved by the planning board with the Worcester Registry of Deeds prior to the start of any site work, and submit proof of recording to the board. And failure to record the decision prior to commencement of the authorized activity shall result in rescission of the decision. There is similar language within our subdivision rules and regs, but I do feel it is always helpful in a decision to include that almost as standard language, if you will. I won't go into the authorization, completion, schedule, and other permits, because we went through that. I'm happy to go in and go back to them, but under 2, conditions to be met prior to endorsement of the plan, there was change in the language under roadway covenant to reflect that it's the applicant/developer that is to be responsible for the roadway. So this is the roadway maintenance covenant, and maintenance shall include roadway repairs, snow plowing, sanding, stormwater management, and upkeep of the landscape areas. This is also, this was a comment that was raised by several members. Previous language made reference to each lot owner owning to the middle of the roadway, and which is also standard language depending how you want to apply it. But whereas it's understood, or the intention, or the hope of the applicant is, and I think the collective intention is that this roadway will eventually be accepted by the town. And in that spirit too, while the subdivision rules and regs, pardon to go back, makes reference to a 4-foot sidewalk, and no disagreement that if the future desires to be 5 feet, then it should be reflected in subdivision rules and regs. But the spirit of the 5-foot sidewalk is whereas the director of DPW felt, whereas should the town adopt the roadway, 5-foot standard is the preference for general maintenance, snow plowing, and so on. So that was his intention with
Yeah,
respect
no,
to that.
I have no problem with that, but we should be walking the same walk. We should be doing things together here.
Right.
So that's, and I only bring that up because it's relevant to this particular item. Under plan revisions, and here we are that, should the board not wish to approve tonight, the applicant does have time to add these, or most of these plan revisions. But let me go through what was added and taken out, as you can see here. So under plan revisions, number 4, the drainage and access easement shall be labeled on the plan. I'll catch up to that in the next section. Number 5, the tree buffer for Lot 9 shall be revised. And this was in conversation. Lot 9, you recall, is the large lot. And I believe Member Byrd inquired about the limitations of it, if I recall.
Yeah, but what I heard, what I heard was that stormwater management was based upon so much of the land staying as is, okay?
Yeah.
And if that's the case, then the lot should stay as is with that vegetation, so it's got to be on the plan somewhere.
So we made note of that. Previous number 4, there was a reference here. A note shall be added to all plan sheets indicating that present and future owners are subject to the private roadway agreement. That was stricken out. Present and future owners, again, that was that was with respect to the individual property owners owning to the lot line. We do have general language that will be incorporated should the board, when the board approves, should the board approve this stuff, that the applicant, developer, or future applicant, developer as owner of the entire roadway, or future owner, shall be responsible to adhere to the conditions of the decision. With respect to drainage and access easement, I added this language. The applicant shall submit a drainage access easement for the board's review and consideration for acceptance. The easement language shall be reviewed and approved by town council and the DPW director prior to the board's consideration of acceptance. Former bullet here, C, private roadway agreement, and D, lot deeds. That was all reference to what I was talking about earlier about the individual property owners. All that was stricken out. So I hope that's in good form. No changes under inspection and legal fees. Changes under conditions to be met prior to construction of the ways and installation of municipal services. I'm on page 4. D1, construction time. That last sentence, no construction shall take place on Sundays or legal holidays without advance approval of the planning board. Striking out building commissioner. Conferred with the building commissioner on this. Felt it'd be most appropriate to have the applicant come before this board in those situations. We appreciate the consideration. No changes on 5. Page 6. So we had conversation about field changes, okay? Think we've cleared this up. Intention is to leave it as the board shall review the proposed field changes at a public meeting and determine whether proposed field changes are reasonable and acceptable based on the unforeseen conditions or emergencies and whether other options are feasible or more suitable, I should say. So we've stricken out that the building commissioner or designee, we're working on some variations here. The building commissioner or designee may determine that the field change is insubstantial, authorize the change and so notify the board. If determined to be substantial, then it continued to say the board shall review. We struck out the first, that section that I just read, so we'll carry forward that the board shall review all field changes and make a determination. Following that, number 3, the approved field change shall be shown on the as-built plan as a change and be provided at project completion. We added under B, land disturbance activities, standard language, meaning that they are to comply with BMPs, so Department of Environmental Protection Best Management Practices, and shall be in accordance with any order of conditions of the Conservation Commission. C was added, progress reports. Upon request from the Planning Board or the Department of Land Management, the applicant shall submit a report on the progress of the subdivision construction, estimated time until completion, expected construction activity for the remainder of the project, and other project details as requested. And the applicant shall provide the information in writing no later than 10 days following the request. On page 7, the owner/applicant, successors and titles shall maintain and repair the completed roadway or establish an escrow account with the town. Completed roadway and infrastructure. Make a notation here. Establish an escrow with the town for said purpose until the roadway and utilities and easements are accepted at town meeting. Change of the language here, as I was reading through this, town for said purpose until roadway and easements are submitted to town meeting. No. It should read that the town for the purposes until the roadway and easements are accepted, not submitted, accepted at town meeting.
So Tony, did you want to put any, you mentioned utilities? I don't see
Yes.
that mentioned.
I'd like to amend that to include utilities, the underground, above ground too, lights and so on, but utilities infrastructure. We do describe the expectations of the roadway, and it was discussed that it's not just simply the paved area, it's the sidewalks, right? It's the grass strip, it's the poles, the trees, the stormwater, right? C, added record and return all funds to the applicant. So this pertains to the release of security by an instrument that could be recorded and return all funds to the applicant or the planning board. Or the planning board shall retain the security if the board determines the construction is not complete and specify in a written notice to the applicant and town clerk what construction is incomplete. D, we ended the last meeting at D, okay? Section 6 is completely new, working with the building commissioner on this, but going back to the bullet D, originally it read, The applicant shall maintain all trees and landscape planted as part of construction of ways and services for a period of 2 years. After reading this, felt it'd be more appropriate to keep this open. And what I mean by that is, under the new reading, the applicant shall maintain all trees and landscape planted as part of construction of the roadway and utility services, unless the town accepts the roadway as a public way. 'Cause under
So
the
if-
previous reading, after 2 years,
Right.
then what?
Right.
Yeah, so just if it's gonna be a private way, then you're gonna,
Always
Yep.
maintain,
Unless
sorry.
the town accepts, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes more sense than saying that, because after 2 years,
Yeah.
well, we don't have to worry about it anymore. Right.
Yeah, I mean, that's,
Yeah, I like that.
not to say that would,
No,
but again,
no,
it
no,
was,
no.
we caught that
No.
after.
Another revision to the
No.
subdivision rules and regs. It's in there. It's in there.
I like this.
Picking
too.
them out, Tony.
You know, yeah.
The last section is interesting too. So this was, in consultation, we talked to the building commissioner, and we saw some examples in other communities too, and felt we could provide something similar for the board to consider. So these are conditions to be met prior to the issuance of a building permit. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So, the first one, all roads, sidewalks, and utilities depicted on the plan must be constructed, period. And then this is, again, some of them must be met prior to the issuance of a building permit. Driveways must be accessible for emergency vehicles and approved by the fire chief and police chief. Documentation of approval shall be provided to the building commissioner and planning board. 3, a plot plan, and this is standard for the issuance of any building permit, but a plot plan for the lot in question, where you're requesting the building permit, must be submitted to include the location of structure, driveway, grading, water line location of drainage infrastructure, and identification of all easements. The last few items, I believe, are a little more than the traditional plot plan submission. However, it's having that information up front is only going to help the developer and this board understand the as-built plan at the end of the process.
Yeah.
And by having a plot plan that has this level of detail, we believe would be helpful. The next one is lot numbers must be posted along the front setback and visible from the road. So, lot numbers, this could be as simple as a sign, lot 1 is here, lot 2 is here. In practice, being out in the field, the building commissioner shared with me that and we hope, right, all the lots get built at once or several at the same time. It's just a practical piece, having these lots identified, so when the building commissioner or the electrical inspector or any inspector shows up on the site, that they're not in error when they go to visit a site. You may think that's a minor detail, but it's a really critically important detail because, as I'm told, some of these developments, houses look identical. And this is, we're looking at sheetrock or, unfinished house at times, right, during the stages of inspection. So having that just cleans it up. This is not to be confused with the condition that the building, that the assessor asked for prior to the endorsement of the plan, that addresses be assigned to the lots. So this is, we don't feel this is at all cumbersome. It helps everybody in the process, whether it's building commissioner, whether it's an emergency issue, whatnot, or selling the property. The fifth one is actually right in here, merged in with the fourth one by accident. But the fifth one is that appropriate erosion control measures for the lot be in place. And the sixth one is catch basins shall be adequately protected and maintained to prevent siltation into drainage structures. And then the last two revisions of this draft. All slopes must be stabilized with regard to erosion and safety, And the last one is the lot must be properly landscaped in accordance with the endorsed plan.
Well, that's a lot to have prior to issuing a building permit. That's like, what I was trying to say was build a road
Build the roadway, yeah.
and then put in the houses.
Do we want to require them to do the sidewalk too? Complete the sidewalk prior to the, all at once?
I'm just good, let's go, we talked last meeting about Kathy's Way.
Yeah.
They got a house there, it's already built, they already have a building permit, and they only have a binder. Okay?
And nothing else done.
That wouldn't meet that first condition
No.
you have on here, Tony,
And
that's
there's
what I'm
no-
saying.
There's no side, there's no anything.
Well, that's what bond,
There's no
that's what the bond
landscaping
is
at
for,
all.
right?
No, but,
Huh?
That's what the bond is for.
That's right, that's what a bond is for. I
You
mean,
have an adequate bond.
I mean, what you're suggesting to me is they gotta entirely finish everything except putting in the house. Then they can put in the house.
right, the
You're
drive.
even
the-
talking
the dri- the
landscaping when
drive-
they gotta
no,
dig a big hole
well,
for a
the driveway's gotta
foundation.
be there, I mean, I get, yeah, and
How does that apply to a 50-lot subdivision? They're gonna build, 3 miles worth of road and then, before they start building the first house?
That'd be my only concern is in a large development like that, that could be.
And not knowing which houses get built first, you could be in a situation, you're using that example.
If the language in A was all roads, sidewalks, and utilities depicted on the plan must be constructed for the lot for which a permit is sought,
well, no, you-
Perhaps,
or is it a lot to expect all the utilities to be in before the foundation is? I don't know.
thinking about sidewalk, what good is having half of a sidewalk in front of lot 4, let's say, and you need to walk past lot?
Right.
Well,
So-
contiguous up until.
So
the
any
end.
part of the
Then no.
roadway that's completed, the sidewalks have to be done.
Continue,
Right.
yeah, like,
Yeah.
yeah, if it's contiguous, like you said, you just keep going as you go, but.
If
do
it's
you
the
mean by-
10th, if it's the 10th lot down, it's the first house being built, you have to build the road up to the 10th lot.
Completed,
That's
fully,
contiguous.
binder, final
Well,
code?
otherwise, what are you gonna do, build road right in front of one lot and then have messed up road in front of it and behind
Well,
it? That doesn't
up
make
to a
any sense
point,
either.
but-
I was cautious not to get, here to articulate whether it's final or binder.
Yeah, you just
know,
said.
You
road-
just said
road.
roadway,
You just
I
said roadway.
understand.
That's what
But
I
that's the
understood, but-
interpretation
yeah,
of somebody.
Right,
I mean, I look at it, they want the road done
yeah,
to assure access, okay?
well,
Yeah, in the construction world, they think binder's enough for access, okay? And yeah, that's for their construction vehicles also, so,
But again, that's why they have the bond money.
that's right.
And it's, if you get a real adequate bond, then you protect it if something happens to the road. If you, and I was on the board 100 years ago, when we did Marsh, well, what is that called?
right,
Henry Marsh up there.
Yeah.
When Joe Zanesti said, oh yeah, we're just, no, it was a Di Virgilio, I don't know which one it was. But he said, yeah, we made an agreement and we had like little road opening bonds for each house. And then when it all went to the trapper, those
no
were
good.
useless. They were useless. I mean, so you gotta have
yeah.
adequate bond and then and if we watch how if we adequately, pay attention when they're building it and, do the inspections and they're building it right, then you have a good binder, and a good binder will last a long time if you build it right. And then you get the bond, and then you protect it. I think building the whole road seems to be excessive to me.
Well, I'm just going by his
What
his
the
condition,
word, right.
his conditions to be met prior to issuing a building permit.
And I'm just throwing my comment as I'm just throwing
Well, yeah.
a comment out there.
Might it be
Requiring
helpful?
the construction of the roads, I don't think there's a requirement for what materials are used for the construction of the road. It's just saying, that's essentially what this board does. We approve roadways, right? So the roadways, sidewalks, and utilities need to be in. Then pull your occupancy permit and build your first house, right?
That's the issue, right, it's one thing to put a building permit, but when people start occupying these houses, which is the next step in this, and the roadway's not done, or the sidewalk's not done, then there's an issue.
Yeah, so there's different
Yeah.
ways to look at it. Tony, look at it from Kathy's Way point of view. You know, you're waiting for a cost estimate to get a bond to get it out of,
Right.
look at that one.
Yeah, and-
Okay,
and I
that
can't-
isn't completed.
The other one-
Nothing is
The
completed.
other one that the town had to come, because there was a bond, was the other one, those people, but they were all living in a house and the road just disintegrated. I can't,
Well, you know,
and the town ended up having to fix it. But again, there was a bond in place to do that. But again, these people were already living in the houses with a destroyed road.
Yeah. I don't know if this is helpful, but if we were to strike out A, and go with B, roadway,
Covenant.
comma, driveways must be accessible for emergency vehicles, and adequate,
Yeah, just remember what it's for. It's for building permits. To
Exactly.
Take out a building permit to start putting a foundation in.
Right.
Well, we're not gonna have landscaping.
yeah.
Okay, they're gonna destroy any landscape that's there and start digging a big hole.
But
and-
when we get to occupancy permits, that's a whole.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
whole different can of worms.
Can of worms.
And I do feel that at some point, I don't want to lose sight of, and I know we won't, but that sidewalks, if they're shown in the plan, that they be put in.
Okay, but when you're talking about the financing of how these things are done, right? The occupancy permit is what gets the developer paid and provides the funds to advance the
Correct.
project.
Right.
Correct?
So, to your point,
Yeah.
which is the sidewalks and all that stuff needs to be done at occupancy. That's where you.
Yep.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I'd catch it
I echo
there,
that
yeah.
too.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
You gotta watch it.
I know, it's a fine line, it's a fine line between, because that's I mean, we just saw a proponent come in here before where he wants, these people want to get an occupancy permit conditioned on all these things not being done. You know, so.
Okay, well, anyway, you addressed them all for now, Tony. Keep massaging it. You're getting there. I wanna give the applicant some
Yeah,
flexibility to
yeah.
do something
Yeah,
in there too.
and if I may, is there a preferred, how would you like me to condition this piece as it relates to roadway? Or do we want to give it some more thought? Want me to,
Yeah,
I was trying to look up some of the ones I've done.
okay,
yeah,
Basically, what we
Small
want
sum
them
up,
to
yeah.
do is, we want the road done so that they can even build, okay?
Mhm.
And that means binder,
yeah.
okay? That's what it does mean. It means binder, okay? And
Only
no
up to a certain-
sidewalks at that point, because they'll just be driving over the sidewalks whatever,
Right.
ripping them up.
Right.
And
right.
forget about landscaping and things like that for now. You know, all those things take place at the occupancy
Sure,
stage of
sure.
the game.
I don't know if you could phase it somehow, okay, so the binder coat's on the, no.
Along with
No,
having,
I-
along with
know.
having appropriate surety.
Yeah.
This all started with the reference, with
Right.
sidewalk.
Yeah.
And sidewalk completion, so.
Yeah, I know.
I understand.
You understand?
Yeah. But,
I mean, we've had a lot of, activity where they want their occupancy permits while it's still in the binder state, and I'm not sure about the condition of sidewalks or anything else at that point.
Right.
You know?
We should definitely catch it at that point, and
Well, we,
you know,
they're gonna have a lot of surety.
right,
I mean,
right.
right, okay.
but we're not in the business to build their development for them either, so that's why
Oh,
I
yeah.
say, I have no qualms with putting in a completed subdivision road and sidewalks, even if there isn't a house on it.
So what so the engineer didn't give us new plans, or?
Well, this changes. yeah.
I'm sorry, the applicants here, I know that they were waiting on input from DPW,
it's gotten
and
it.
And that
the
came
engineer
today.
had reached out to me, and following up several times. Their intention was to incorporate in a timely fashion, the comments, all the
For
comments
DPW, yeah.
onto the plans.
Okay.
Again, it relates to the fencing.
Right.
He looked at the grading as was
Yeah,
noted.
that,
So he
'cause
did-
I brought
Jared did
that up
take
at
the
that
time to
last
go
meeting,
through
and I
that.
asked if they couldn't, but, I mean, obviously, there's a big difference, 30% grade, but in getting a town vehicle down, it doesn't sound like it can be done. According to and I remember asking at the meeting specifically, you know, can you get down there, and,
The grades on that should be no different than the road.
right, and that's gonna change, I don't know, you know, you're gonna have to change the way to get down to that basin to be maintained, I guess.
And in brief conversation, because again, when we got comments from DPW was
Yeah.
mid-afternoon today, brief conversation with the applicant, which the applicant's here,
Yeah.
can certainly speak on this and should. But also the applicant, the engineer, or specifically the engineer made mention that he can work at shifting the layout slightly without throwing anything else off, stormwater calcs and such, of the basin. He felt he could, to help mitigate that 30% slope.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, and, you know, and Tony mentioned it, the DPW reply was this afternoon.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that,
And half the items on this,
Qualified my
at
statements
3:48.
already.
half the items on this are not things that we discussed in the previous
Right,
meetings, like
right,
handicap
right.
ramps and
Right, but-
and things
but
like
I
that.
did-
So it's probably better that a plan wasn't generated, because now there's more things that
Yeah,
have popped up
yeah.
from DPW,
And
in addition to what we discussed at the last meeting, so.
on the
Would you
on
like
the
to speak?
ADA,
Yeah.
Come on up to the, sit next to Tony there, and
And I was just going to say too, on the ADA piece, there is, in speaking with the applicant's engineer this afternoon, we were both talking about, there is a handicap ramp shown on not a profile, but a.
Detail sheet.
A detail, thank you. On page,
Oh.
on page 8. But he was looking for additional detail as to the pad and so on.
no, I want, my comments, I want the plan to reflect what we're gonna vote on.
Yep.
Not gonna vote on a
good.
plan that doesn't reflect everything that we've talked about.
Yeah.
So your choice, when you want to continue the meeting with a completed plan. And yeah, we're not the only ones that, I mean, our own departments are meeting deadlines. We've been talking about this thing for 2 months, and we finally get something through DPW. That's not right, okay? I feel for you there. That is not right, okay? On the other hand, we've had to wait a long time for you guys, too. So between the two of us, we're not getting together here. My attitude is the plan's got to reflect everything that we've talked about. The plan is the plan of record. It isn't the conditions we throw on it. Okay, it's the plan of record, because that's what everyone's going to go back if you're still building this thing out over 2 years from now and you want an as-built done, you know, it's the plan of record. It isn't the plan with a ton of conditions on it or a time of endorsement or anything else. Because I'm not going to, you know, we sign things for endorsement. We don't review it to make sure all those conditions were done. I just want to see the plan done right. Have all that stuff on there.
I just had one more quick question for Tony. Back to 4C on the progress reports. I thought one of the previous meetings, we had some discussion about progress reports and not being reactive, but being more proactive on those and having them at, you know, whether it's intervals or whatever, so that we know what's going on. We don't have to go back and continuously ask for things that might avoid some of these situations where who's waiting for who kind of thing. I don't remember who brought it up. It might have been Jeff.
Yeah, no, yeah, that was just on, that's the general type thing anyway.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
you know, again, because sometimes, like I
When
said.
it comes to
these things-
stormwater things, obviously, the DPW wants to be highly involved in all stormwater stuff to make sure that the stuff underground represents what's on the plan. So he needs to be contacted. So,
We can put a time frame on that.
Especially
You
for
can
some
put
of
a
these
time frame.
long-running projects, right? You know, I don't know
Like
whether it
maybe
should be
bi-monthly or
monthly or.
something like that.
yeah.
You know, Again, it's like anything, once you get going, you're gonna know your time frame better once it starts, but.
Exactly.
At one point, there was a call for weekly, not,
I wouldn't, yeah.
but reference to weekly, not even reference to weekly, but the importance of having some type of interval would be helpful. Question would be, I do like to see that with, when we have the third parties too involved to get their field reports, at least on a monthly basis.
I mean, I guess if I had to say, in a normal situation, everything went well, it's just a 5-year project or a 2-year project, or is it, you know, in a normal situation?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I don't know what Oxford could actually sustain as far as 14 lots.
I don't know, again, in a normal, again, I know it's a guessing game, but again, if everything went the way accordingly it should go, you can't do this in 6 months, obviously, but,
It's gonna, the build-out time would probably be 3 to 4 years. But road, I think I mentioned this last meeting, it'd be to my benefit as well as the
Oh,
town.
absolutely,
Within 2 years.
to get all that done.
Yeah. I would think even one season on the binder.
So something like that, so you're saying is, so roadwork, say if we had a progress report every 2 months or something like that, where we're at.
Right.
And I mean, obviously, we don't want to bog them down with
No,
more
no, not at
paperwork
all,
or
no,
whatever,
no,
but
no,
it's just
just-
so that we
Especially we
know.
only
What's that
meet
now?
twice a month. I mean, I think, once every 2 months is good. Like 6 times a year.
I think what you could do for the scale of the project is have a standard, say every 2 months for it, but some of these very long-running projects that
Yeah.
stretch out, we could agree to, every 3 months, 4 months is a thing, depending on the state of the project. But a standard is good, this, the template.
I'm just wondering why we want to have progress reports, and we don't just say to the developer, we'll put it on the developer to get in touch with the local
Right, yeah.
DPW, because when he needs something done, he should make sure he's been inspected, he's been as-built-ed, and all that's ready to go, so when he comes before us, here's what we did, here's a sign-off by
Yeah,
Jared.
as long as we get it from him, that's fine too, as long as we get it from somewhere.
Yeah,
saying
but
this-
we don't, I don't think we
yeah,
really need to say,
I don't think it's. I'm
every
coming
2
on him,
months, we
but-
want a report from you.
No, but what's to prevent him from not doing anything with Jared, I guess, that's kind of what's
Well,
happened with some of the
then
things.
when he comes before us, he's in trouble, because he hasn't done anything with Jared.
Well, that's why the previous guy
That's why the
had
communication, yeah,
roof
right,
stuff buried underground, and no one even knows what's under there. No one
Right.
saw it, no one took pictures, no
Right.
one looked at it.
Right.
There was no evidence from the DPW
Right.
that it was even done with
Right,
that
because he
as-built.
didn't hook up with Jared.
yeah,
and
right.
made sure that it was all inspected and
So
written
I
down.
guess
and
what's
good to
the
go.
thing, I guess, well, we didn't hear anything from Jared in 2 months, so what's, when we wouldn't know what's going on, and then do we call him in or not, you know what I'm saying?
Well, does a progress report need to be an in-person, or could it just be a submission?
Oh, it could be, it could be
That would be-
submission, yeah, it could be
just-
anything.
It
but
could
I-
be just
I-
documentation
yeah,
that we
I'm
get
not
in
gonna
our
remember
mail.
2 months,
That,
so-
that's all I'm saying, I don't think we need to call people in and have
Yeah, I
a
know.
hearing
Yeah,
about
you
it every
If he
time.
wants something, he'll do that.
With Jared, right.
The
So-
developer will get in touch with Jared.
On
lock
conditions
that
I've
down.
drafted
yeah.
for other boards, we had no road construction shall commence until the applicant or the applicant's agent receives the scheduled or required inspections from the planning board's engineer consultant. I don't know if that's,
So the applicant would receive a schedule
Get a
from the
schedule.
applicant's consultant, from the town's consultant.
well, if we have one on,
There is one, yeah.
yeah.
That sounds like you, Tony.
Just want to make sure the stuff is done. If it's in the ground, it's got to be shown to somebody
Yeah.
before it gets covered
also-
over. It's just
we-
like your septic system. You got to go get a Board of Health agent out there to make sure you
Right,
built your
before
septic
before you
right.
put it in, yeah.
Okay, same thing with the rest of the stormwater management stuff,
So we do require pre-construction meetings 7 days prior, and that's very, very helpful.
Yeah,
It's similar to tech review.
Yeah, yeah.
Mr. Chairman, and we could also add in there that a schedule be provided. Myself, I would prefer that the applicant and contractor provide the schedule.
The other,
of-
going to the bond issue, prior to issuance of any occupancy permit for any dwelling unit, all site improvements related to the unit and providing access to the unit shall be fully completed in accordance with the plan. Alternatively, the board will require a performance bond.
Don't want any
secure
of them.
completion of construction after issuance
Passbook
of
or
an
something,
occupancy
cash.
permit.
We want surety. We want something that's
Yeah.
guaranteed.
Performance.
Yeah, I mean, and, you know, you're not Pulte Homes, thank God. Okay, but I've done some subdivisions with Pulte Homes, and the bonds are in the millions of dollars. And it's a big deal for them to get that bond reduction, because it frees up $300,000
Right.
at a whack. And keeps the trains running on time.
Yeah, I believe we were gonna go with a third party, right, tri-party agreement, so,
We've gotten burned by that, too. Ashworth Drive got burned by a tri-party agreement.
Right,
Well-
yeah, well,
The bank went,
well, yeah.
the developer went belly up and the bank went belly up.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What was that?
Well, and again, that's what I'm saying, these bonds need to be specifically covered certain things, whether it's the roadway, whether it's a stormwater, whatever it is, they need to be specific on what they are covering. Because Ashwood Drive, all the things that, next thing you know, all that money went towards inspections instead of fixing the roadway or anything else. So, and you can have the greatest bond in the world covering the whole project, but what's it being paid for is a whole different story.
Yeah, no,
A lot of towns require developers, before they start building, they give you an itemized list of what has to be done and how much it costs, and their estimate. That way, when they do something, you have a, you know, they put the binder in, here's what that cost. Sidewalk, here's what that costs. Loam and seed, here's what that costs.
Yeah.
So you have an idea, and then you can, and it's usually, that is given to the DPW or town engineer, and they go through it and they double check it, and they agree on the numbers. And that's how they come up with a surety, and the, you know, cash bond or whatever kind of bond.
right, usually 1.5 times is norm.
Yeah, it depends who you talk to. Some
Yeah.
places are doing 3.
Yeah.
Places are doing 3.
It's hefty.
Okay, so when do you think your engineer can get the plan up to snuff?
I would think within a couple of days. If there's no
Well,
other-
okay, so you're saying you'll be ready for our April 7th meeting?
11.
11th meeting. April 11th meeting? Time, Mary?
7:25?
I think we have, 7:25.
See, the reason I like to schedule things 5 minutes apart, just for your
Yeah.
information, is just like what happened tonight.
Right.
That has happened multiple times in the
first two
past.
meetings you
In
canceled
fact, a
and,
couple of public hearings, sometime,
Yeah.
continued one especially, the applicant isn't ready, and they'll just come with a letter saying,
Right.
we'd like to
Yeah.
continue it to the next meeting. Well, that doesn't take
Yeah.
all but 2 minutes, and then you're on to the next thing.
Right.
I learned from Auburn that they used to, when I went to theirs, they'd set them one after another. Yeah, you sit on your butt for a long time, but at least you're there before the meeting, and
Small little.
sometimes you waited a while, but
We just have to make sure that Tony has more to talk about, and he's not, comes up short.
Yeah, it's gonna be it.
But you're right, Rich, because otherwise
yeah,
it just drag on.
yeah,
and
we-
we're talking
we've been
about-
doing this for years. Entertain a motion to continue this public hearing to April 11th at 7:20 PM.
So moved.
7:25.
7:25 PM.
So moved.
Second.
Further discussion?
I just have a question.
Yeah.
So the plans will be revised. Do they have to go back to Jared to review again?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Jared's an integral part of this.
Yeah, but see,
Yeah, he's got
I-
8 things, yeah.
But I
yeah.
just
Not
feel
on 3
bad
PM
because
on
he got
Monday.
it, he got it at 3
No,
o'clock
well,
today.
again,
If there's any changes, I mean, can-
that's on him, that's not, yeah.
He,
that's-
No, no,
yeah.
he actually stated in this memo to talk to him about certain things.
Right.
So my attitude to you is,
Make sure
get
you get it
together,
set.
get your engineer and Jared together immediately.
Right.
Have him do his plan, and
Right.
have him get to us, you know, should get a week before, a good week before our meeting,
That's the
and
thing.
have it reviewed by staff and internal.
Yeah.
I just don't want another 3:10 PM.
It can
day
keep
of
going
the
like
meeting.
that, it
Right.
can.
Well,
That's, I don't have any control.
No, not at all, no, absolutely not, no, yeah.
I'm not saying you did.
No,
I
you're not-
alre-
absolutely
I already
not.
said my piece about
Right.
who dropped the ball on this one.
Right, absolutely, it's not,
Okay.
yeah, no, it's not. Right.
But, on the other hand, you can't submit a plan on, what's the 11th, go backwards. 8th?
Sorry, what?
Yeah,
On April 8th, on a Friday afternoon,
Right.
come in with your plan and say, I'm good and ready to go now.
Get the plan, yeah,
Planning board has no clue what your plan looks like
Right.
because they already got their packages at home.
right.
DPW is gone for the weekend. You're not gonna get any response from them. You'll get the same thing. You'll know about it the Monday of our meeting again.
I know.
So that won't help you any either.
And for you, I mean, I'm sure you wanna get started now that spring's here and you kinda get going, so,
Oh,
you know.
yeah, it goes beyond me.
No,
There's so many
yeah,
other
no.
people in the background.
Right, right,
Right.
yeah, no, yeah.
No,
yeah.
just, you know, you just look at, there's a whole bunch of stuff here that,
So if it only take a couple days to do the plan, that's all well and good. But talk to Jared first, make sure you get all the things he's talking about as far as his grates or whatever for the stormwater management, get those documented. I want this plan to show what's going on in the ground, you know, everywhere. So,
Okay.
got a motion?
Yeah.
It's been
Call
made
for a
and
vote.
we second it.
seconded.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
I vote aye.
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 And I vote aye, carried unanimously.
So we'll see you on the 11th.
Oh, I see, as far as the waivers, just, we vote on them.
Those are all set. We covered that last time. We told you
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Oh, I wasn't sure if it was, I didn't know it was an official vote. I didn't-
That wasn't,
I don't know how
that
that
was not
goes.
official the last time. We were just,
It was a straw vote.
But it was?
Yeah, and as far as I'm concerned, it was official. I mean, there were more ayes than noes, so you can leave them on your plan. I mean, at one point, it was thought they weren't on the plan, but they're on the plan. I have no problem with
Yeah, we had a
your
straw.
your waivers, okay? And it's
There
gonna be
were
based
more.
upon the vote of the whole project, including
Right.
your waivers, so.
Right. Right, the whole, yeah. We're gonna vote on the whole plan, not.
Yeah, we're voting to accept your plan.
And we hope we have it in our
I am
packet.
gonna have that
ready
done
to
this
go.
week.
All right.
Get him on speed dial over there.
Yeah. Hopefully Jared's not on vacation.
Okay. Yeah, because you only got 2 weeks this time. Sometimes between months, we get 3 weeks, but not
Rich,
this
quick
time.
question, you might have discussed it. So any of the waivers, if he doesn't get them, it's gonna require revisions to the plans? That he won't be able to do if he doesn't know if he's getting the waiver? I don't remember. I know there was a
Gives a
number of
list of
lots on the
5.
cul-de-sac, there was a. something
Yeah, and we had a
moving.
straw vote, and there were more yays than nays. That's all I know. Okay?
So the waivers are good then.
Well, unless
They're on the
unless he's
plan.
afraid of it and he changes his plan to show there's only 4, okay?
Right.
He can do that. You know? As far as I'm concerned, 2 of those lots, it's the one corner of the freaking lot. Most of the frontage is on the road. If you extended your cul-de-sac another 30 feet, you would have been golden. You wouldn't have been on the cul-de-sac, and you'd only have 3 now, not 4. So,
All right.
I know what the intent was of that, was just so you wouldn't have so little frontage on the cul-de-sac that you couldn't get a driveway in.
There's,
Yeah, it'd be like pieces of a pie, you know what I mean? I know that's what the intent was.
Anything else?
no,
Okay,
Good.
That's it?
All right, thank you.
thank you.
progress.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
What are we gonna do at the next meeting? You said you weren't gonna be here.
Oh, no, I'm not here. No, I'm not. I'm not here on the 25th.
Oh, the 25th.
I'll be here at
That's
the
a-
next meeting.
Okay, you'll be here the next one. Okay, Chris, that's good, because we missed that.
I'll second the motion. I
Okay.
vote aye.
Are we definitely going to, talk about subdivision rules and regs at the next meeting?
I'd like them to start looking at it, yeah, start
We might not
redlining
get to the
that.
next meeting, but yeah.
I mean, just as an ongoing agenda item, to
Yes.
start
Yeah.
addressing it, because
Yeah.
that's something we
That's
don't need a
good, yeah.
town meeting
No,
for.
no.
Right.
It's something we can do on our own. And it looks like we've got some problems with our subdivision rules and regs that need to be updated, so,
Some updating.
yeah,
Yeah, some updating.
yeah, so, we can start,
All right.
all right?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
I voted aye. I think
Aye.
we all voted aye. We all
Aye.
voted aye. I think.
Aye.
Aye.
Good night.
Aye.
Good night.
Okay, are we-
All voted to
Okay.
adjourn.